Imagine you're walking into Walmart tomorrow and finding out that half the foods your family eats every week are suddenly pulled off the shelves. Not because they got too expensive, but because the ingredients inside them might actually be dangerous. The most shocking part is that other countries have already banned these same ingredients for years, while we continue to consume them daily. And if new laws pass, the foods you count on the most could be gone next year. Let's talk about the 10 Walmart foods that might not survive this crackdown. Number 1. Great Value White Sandwich Bread. Let's start in the bakery aisle with one of the most basic items on any grocery list, Great Value White Sandwich Bread. At around $1.48 a loaf, it's a budget-friendly staple for school lunches and morning toast. But for years, many commercial breads in the U.S., including some store brands, contained an ingredient called azotocarbonamide, or ADA. You might have heard of it by its nickname, the yoga mat chemical. That's because it's also used as a foaming agent in the production of plastics, like yoga mats and sneaker soles, to make them puff up. In bread, it does something similar. It's a dough conditioner that makes the bread fluffier, whiter, and stronger. The problem is what happens when you bake it. The heat breaks ADA down into other chemicals, including one called urethane. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, urethane is reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen. The World Health Organization has also noted that factory workers who handle large amounts of ADA have reported asthma and other respiratory problems. Because of these risks, the European Union and Australia have banned azotocarbonamide from being used in food. While the FDA says it's safe in the tiny amounts used in bread, just 45 parts per million, other countries have decided that no amount of risk from a cancer-causing byproduct is acceptable. After a lot of public pressure, major companies like Subway and McDonald's removed it from their bread years ago. So the question for us as shoppers is a slightly fluffier loaf of bread worth even a tiny potential risk of cancer? Number 2. Hamburger buns. Right next to the sandwich bread, you'll probably find the hamburger buns, another cookout essential. A package of 8 Great Value hamburger buns costs about $1.53, a price that makes backyard barbecues affordable for everyone. But many of these soft, perfectly shaped buns rely on an ingredient called potassium bromate to get that ideal texture. It's a powerful oxidizing agent that helps strengthen the dough, making it rise higher and giving it that fine, fluffy crumb structure we all expect. But here's the catch. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies potassium bromate as a possible human carcinogen. Decades of animal studies have linked it to kidney and thyroid cancers, and it's also been shown to cause kidney damage and nerve toxicity. This is why it's been banned for use in food in the European Union, Canada, China, India, Brazil. The list goes on. And it's one of the 4 chemicals that will be banned in California starting in 2027. The FDA's official position is that potassium bromate should convert into harmless potassium bromide during the baking process. However, food scientists have warned that if a baker uses too much of the additive, or if the bread isn't baked for long enough or at a high enough temperature, dangerous residual amounts of the original chemical can remain in the finished product. This leaves a margin of error that dozens of other countries have deemed unacceptable. As someone trying to save money, I have to ask, are we supposed to trust that every single batch of these millions of mass-produced, low-cost buns is baked to absolute perfection, every single time? Number 3. Tortillas. The third item from the bakery aisle that's facing scrutiny is one we use for taco night: tortillas. While many Great Value tortillas seem to have cleaner ingredient lists now, some brands sold at Walmart, like La Banderita, have been flagged for containing propylparaben. Propylparaben is an antimicrobial agent, a preservative designed to stop mold and bacteria from growing, which gives products like tortillas a much longer shelf life. For a family on a budget, that's a huge deal. Being able to stock the pantry with items that won't spoil in a few days helps reduce food waste and cuts down on expensive last-minute trips to the store. But this convenience comes with a hidden cost. Propylparaben is a known endocrine disruptor, which means it can interfere with our body's natural hormones. Studies have linked it to serious health concerns, including reproductive harm, decreased fertility in men, and even an increased risk of breast cancer. The risk is considered highest for pregnant women and young children whose development is especially sensitive to hormonal changes. The European Union looked at this evidence and banned propylparaben from food way back in 2006. It's also on California's ban list. This forces us into a difficult position. We're being asked to weigh the very real, immediate benefit of saving money and having food that lasts against the potential for long-term, invisible damage to our health. It feels like we're paying a preservation penalty, trading our hormonal health for a longer shelf life. Number 4. Little Debbie Zebra Cake. Now let's move to the snack aisle, where the colors get brighter and the ingredient lists get longer. A classic kid favorite you'll find here is the Little Debbie Zebra Cake. A box of these is only about $3.18, making it an easy and affordable treat. That iconic white icing and creamy filling get their bright, opaque look from an additive called titanium dioxide. It's a whitening agent used purely for cosmetic purposes to make foods look more appealing. It adds no flavor, no nutritional value, nothing but color. For years, it was considered perfectly safe. But in 2022, the European Food Safety Authority, or EFSA, declared they could no longer consider it safe for consumption. They reviewed thousands of studies and concluded that tiny nanoparticles of titanium dioxide could accumulate in the body over time and potentially cause damage to our DNA and chromosomes, a type of damage called genotoxicity. It's also been linked to inflammation and damage to the immune system. Based on this, the entire European Union banned it from all food products. Here in the U.S., the FDA disagrees with Europe's conclusion and still allows it. Titanium dioxide was originally part of the California ban, but it was removed from the bill at the last minute, though a similar bill in New York still includes it. This puts us right in the middle of a major disagreement between two of the world's top food safety agencies. But when you step back, the choice seems pretty clear. We are potentially risking DNA damage for an ingredient that just makes a snack cake look a little bit whiter. Number 5. Candy corn and the cherries. Another snack aisle staple, especially around the holidays, is candy. And this is where we find one of the most unbelievable stories of regulatory failure. Let's talk about Brack's candy corn and the cherries and great value fruit cocktail. A can of fruit cocktail can be as cheap as $1.66, a pantry staple for generations. Both of these products have historically contained red dye number 3. This dye is used to give candies and maraschino cherries that bright, vibrant cherry red color. It's also a known carcinogen. I'm not just saying that. The FDA's own studies from the 1980s prove that red dye 3 causes thyroid cancer in rats. Because of this, in 1990, the agency banned it from being used in cosmetics and topical drugs. But in a move that defies all logic, they allowed it to remain in the food we eat. For 35 years, it has been illegal to put an ingredient on your lips in lipstick, but perfectly legal for food companies to put that same ingredient in candy that you feed to your children. On top of the cancer risk, studies have also linked red dye 3 to hyperactivity and other neurobehavioral problems in kids. The European Union, Australia, and Japan have all banned or severely restricted it. Finally, after decades of pressure from consumer groups and the new law in California, the FDA announced in January 2025 that it was finally banning red dye 3 from food. But even that ban won't be fully enforced until 2027, giving companies years to reformulate. It's a shocking example of how long it can take for our regulations to catch up with the science. Number 6. Frosted shredded wheat. Moving on to the breakfast aisle, let's look at a cereal that many people choose for its fiber content and affordability. Great value frosted shredded wheat. A big 24-ounce box costs just around $2.82, which is a great deal. If you flip that box over and read the ingredients, you'll likely see a familiar phrase, BHT added to preserve freshness. BHT, or butylated hydroxytoluene, is a synthetic antioxidant. It's added to the cereal or its packaging to keep the fats and oils from going rancid, which dramatically extends its shelf life. But BHT isn't just a simple preservative. It's a chemical compound refined from petroleum sources, and it's also used as a stabilizer in things like jet fuel and embalming fluid. Animal studies have linked long-term exposure to high doses of BHT to problems with the liver, kidneys, and thyroid. It can also act as a tumor promoter in certain situations, and some evidence even suggests it might mimic the hormone estrogen in the body. While the FDA considers it safe at the low levels used in food, the fact that it's a petroleum byproduct with known toxic effects at higher doses is enough to make you pause before you pour your morning bowl. Number 7. Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Next to it on the shelf, you'll find one of the most popular kids' cereals in America, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. A family-size box will set you back about $4.93. Like many other cereals, it often contains preservatives to keep it fresh, but this one has been known to contain BHA, or butylated hydroxyanisole, which is a close cousin of BHT. BHA is even more controversial. The National Toxicology Program, which is part of our own U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, classifies BHA as reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen. The International Agency for Research on Cancer calls it a possible human carcinogen, and the European Union lists it as a known endocrine disruptor. Because of this, BHA is banned as a food additive in Japan and the European Union. In California, it's listed under Proposition 65, which means products containing it require a cancer warning label. This is where things get really frustrating. General Mills, the company that makes Cinnamon Toast Crunch, is a massive global corporation. They sell their cereals all over the world. In Europe, where BHA is banned, they sell a version of Cinnamon Toast Crunch that doesn't contain it. They use a different, safer preservative, often a form of vitamin E called mixed tocopherols. This proves that not only is it possible to make the cereal without this likely carcinogen, but they already know exactly how to do it. Yet here in the United States, where the regulations are weaker, they continue to use the cheaper, more controversial chemical. It's not a matter of ability, it's a matter of choice. They are knowingly selling a product to American families that they have decided is too risky for European families. Number 8. Macaroni and cheese. Let's go back to that ultimate budget meal. Great value, macaroni and cheese. At just 58 cents a box, it's a lifesaver for families trying to make ends meet. But what gives it that iconic, almost glowing orange color? It's often a combination of two synthetic food dyes, Yellow 5 and Yellow 6. These two dyes, along with Red 40, make up 90% of all the synthetic dyes used in food in the U.S., and they have been strongly linked to neurobehavioral problems in some children. Studies have shown they can cause hyperactivity, restlessness, and irritability even in small amounts. Beyond that, research has found that Yellow 6 can be contaminated with known carcinogens like benzidine. The evidence is so compelling that in the European Union, any food containing these dyes must carry a warning label that reads, "May hurt activity and attention in children." Here in the U.S., there is no such warning. This creates a massive difference in how we protect our kids. Following years of consumer pressure, Kraft finally removed Yellow 5 and 6 from its original mac and cheese back in 2016, replacing them with natural spices like paprika, annatto, and turmeric, and most people didn't even notice the change. This showed it could be done without ruining the product, and it puts a lot of pressure on store brands like Great Value to do the same. Number 9. Dill pickles. You'll find the same synthetic color in another common Walmart staple, Great Value hamburger dill pickles. A big jar costs around $2.98. Many commercial pickle brands use Yellow 5 to give their pickles that consistent, bright, almost neon yellow-green color. Just like with the mac and cheese, this dye is linked to hyperactivity and hypersensitivity reactions in some children. And just like with titanium dioxide, this is an ingredient used purely for cosmetic reasons. Pickles don't need to be that color. In fact, it's easy to find other brands, and even other Great Value pickle varieties, that use natural colorants like turmeric instead. This just proves how unnecessary the synthetic dye is. It seems to be used simply to meet a certain expectation of what a mass-produced processed food should look like, even if that look comes with potential health risks. Number 10. Beverage aisle. Finally, let's head to the beverage aisle. Here we find our 10th item, and it's actually a bit of a good news story. For years, many citrus-flavored sodas, like the regional favorite Sundrop, contained an ingredient called brominated vegetable oil, or BVO. BVO is an emulsifier. It's a vegetable oil that has been bonded with the element bromine, which makes it heavy enough to keep the citrus flavoring from separating and floating to the top of the drink. The problem is that bromine is also an element used in flame retardants. Studies showed that BVO can build up in your body fat over time, and excessive consumption was linked to some scary side effects, including memory loss, fatigue, skin lesions, and nerve problems. It was also found to negatively affect the thyroid gland. Because of this, BVO has been banned in food in Europe, Japan, and India for a very long time. For decades, the FDA dragged its feet. But then things started to happen. A teenager in Mississippi started an online petition against BVO in Gatorade that went viral, and the company caved to the pressure. Then California included BVO in its Food Safety Act. Finally, in 2024, the FDA officially announced a federal ban on brominated vegetable oil, concluding it was no longer considered safe. It's the perfect example of how this process works. Consumer awareness and state-level action can and do force nationwide change. It proves that the other 9 foods on this list really could be next. These are the 10 products that might not survive longer in the Walmart. And if you found this video helpful, then do hit the subscribe button and share this with all your friends who may unknowingly be consuming these products. And at last, click on the video popping on the screen.